there's that movement, isn't it? We talked about last week, this movement in our grief that we have to do something.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's kept me going, is doing something. I'm having to find a meaning, a purpose or hope or something. I can't sit still in my grief. I'm constantly moving on the go. And I know a lot of that's to do with the adrenaline, the cortisol, the emotions, the trauma, because we've experienced trauma and the body wants to hold on to that trauma. And so we've got to find ways of releasing that. And yeah, my head feels overwhelmed with it all, feels overloaded. And I'm finding these little avenues of things that are helping. I know that's right for me, and it's different for everyone.
Welcome to The Narratives of Suicide, the podcast where we bring hope, community, and a voice to those who've lost to suicide. It's where we dispel the myths of suicide. We dispel historical discourses and constructs that have been steeped in history for a very long time. And we're here with hope, love, and support for everyone out there who needs to listen to this podcast. I'm so sorry you're here, but I do hope it can give you something to use in your healing process, to be able to pick up the pieces of suicide and put them back together again in the best possible way that you can. So welcome to our guest today, the lovely Linzi Meaden, who also I met through collaboration in terms of Clubhouse, so that we can all come together as suicide bereaved people and talk about this more regularly. So me and Linzi met in order to go onto Clubhouse every week, 8 o'clock every Wednesday, by the way, and discuss what it's like and help as many people as we can. So me and Linzi on this journey together, we both lost our brothers. Linzi lost her brother Stuart 8 months ago, so still quite early days for Linzi. Really appreciate you being here today to share your learning and what's happened with you. So Linzi, welcome. Lovely to have you here. Thank you for coming. Really appreciate it.
Hi Sue, thank you for inviting me. And yeah, I believe there's a reason we've connected. Obviously it's very tragic circumstances, but I've discovered over the last few months there's a lot of people in the same situation as us, and there's certain individuals I seem to resonate with more than others. And I think because we both come from sort of healing therapeutic backgrounds as well, maybe why we've connected. And also there's the connection with having both lost our brothers.
Yeah, absolutely. So your healing background, tell us more about that. Tell us more where you come from.
Well, it must be how many years? 10 years ago, a bit longer. Started to become curious in how the mind works. My husband is an NLP practitioner, master practitioner, hypnotist, and starting chatting to him. I'm sure he hypnotized me when he first met me, and I'm still under his spell.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust him to ever, ask you if you want a cup of tea or anything, because
we actually met speed dating, but that's another story.
Oh.
And yeah, fascinating. He actually got rid of one of my phobias, and then I think from that point I used to have a phobia of going on the underground, on the tube, and he got rid of that really quickly within seconds. And I thought, wow, okay, this is interesting. I want to learn more. Tell me more. So I started going on all these trainings, and yeah, so NLP, hypnosis, hypnotherapy, life coaching, tapping, havening. There's probably more to that. I have brain fog at the moment, so bear with me. But all of it is really fascinating. I think I wish at school we could learn more about the brain, how our mind works, and they don't have these subjects. Even at primary school, why not? We're never too young to learn. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at.
You've got twins, haven't you?
I have got twins. They're 4 years old, and boy and girl twins. I've got one of each.
Oh, okay. So you can help them from your knowledge now anyway, can't you? Even if they don't. Yeah, definitely. Like me with my teenagers, they're very emotionally aware because I've always just opened up the conversations when I needed to as they've gone through life. Been some of the techniques you've learned with all of your skills.
Really, I've done that with the loss of my brother, their uncle, the uncle they've only ever known. I was up front right at the start, so they understood about grief and death. I'm not going to hide it from them.
Yeah.
And they've been amazing, incredible.
Wow.
they've coped with it so well. They talk about him every day. They're interested in life and death and human beings and our emotions and grief, and it's incredible.
Yeah, I was saying this on another podcast, how when we have to tell children, whether we're the sibling, whether you're the mum or the dad of the bereaved, we all feel that we've got that responsibility as well, haven't we, to share the news really carefully, not just with the people around us, but especially with our children, and knowing whether to say, certainly for me, it was, do I say he just died or do I say it was suicide? And for me, I didn't have a clue. I did not have a clue, but they saw me. They saw me suddenly on the floor, crying my eyes out. So I was in that grief so quickly, so suddenly. I don't think I could have lied to them even because I wasn't cognitively, even rationally thinking at that point.
Yeah.
And then it's only later then you start to pick apart. Should I, shouldn't I? And then the guilt might come in, or you might analyze yourself or go onto the internet and ask what you should have done. I think it's forgiving ourselves for any of that, because we just do whatever we need to do to get through those very moments, don't we?
Yeah, I heard on Wednesday at 6:40 p.m. in the evening. So I remember it's interesting that you remember the certain times and things.
Yeah.
And yeah, I ran outside into the garden. Those were the days when the sun was shining. This was back in June, and we're sat here in February, and it's chucking it down with rain here outside. Just even going back in my head to summer days fills me with such weird emotions. I haven't experienced sort of, I don't know. Anyway, that's another topic. But yeah, they were aware that whole week actually that Mummy was upset about something, because first he was missing. He was a missing person. So I was showing worry. I was trying to keep it to myself. But obviously when we heard the news that they found him, there was no way I could hide that. And it's just impossible. So yeah, they were incredible actually when I told them. Incredible.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of my memories are linked into telling people. And I think I've heard that a lot as well with other people. It's part of those memories that we've got that we go back to, I think, quite a bit.
It's weird, actually. I remember sitting in the garden and I just started texting or WhatsApping some of my really close friends. And I was really blunt with my words. It wasn't like, I'm really sorry to say, or something really bad's happened or anything like that, because they knew he was missing. So that everyone was out looking, they knew he was missing. So my words were something like, well, he's dead. I was that blunt. I can't believe now that I would be so blunt about it, but I was in shock.
That's right. You're just reaching out, weren't you?
I had to write it. I had to see the words. I had to say it out loud. I had to express, because it was all suddenly inside. And I've learned that bottling things up I have to get it out there. So and then I spent the whole evening on social media, because again there was about 2,500 shares of his missing persons post on the Sussex Police and all these missing person sites. So I felt my responsibility was to let them all know that he'd been found, because people were worried, people were searching. I went into full-on busy mode. And that's how I coped that first night.
Yeah, making sure everybody was informed, those like loose threads almost, isn't it, of the social media people out there. Yeah, but getting it out, like you say, you couldn't hold it in.
No. In the past, I've very much been somebody that bottles things up, kept things to myself, just, not wanted to speak up or say how I feel. And when this hit me, wow, I changed big time, complete turnaround. I suddenly had to speak out, and I'm still speaking out, because I realised that holding on to all of this I'd be in a very dark place now if I kept it all in.
Yeah.
And it's weird, because this is all happening during a pandemic. Lockdown. He went missing in a lockdown. His body was found in a lockdown. His funeral was in a lockdown. The inquest was in a lockdown. And now we're in another lockdown. And I've never experienced grief before. And this is an extra layer. In fact, there's several extra layers. There's the layer of it being suicide. And then there's the layer of it being in a lockdown as well. So we can't just go round to a friend's house for a hug, or go for a cup of tea, or I can't pop to mum and dad's with the twins. I mean, they must be so desperate to spend time with their little ones, their grandchildren, their only grandchildren, and they can't. Hence why I've chosen to write, because I've written a book, and write, get the words out, get my feelings out, speaking to people, going on social media. I've had to find other ways, because we can't connect with people as we would normally.
Like you say, that links to that you first said, the finding people that resonate like we did, just resonate with the bigger belief system of life about the world, and then feeling that comfort from each other, that there's people out, and all on different stages of the journey, kind of, all journeying. And I think there's so much comfort in that for me. I've always felt like that, always felt just a knowing absolute knowing that you can get on being around someone who understands, and it's absolutely precious. But I hadn't thought of the lockdown connotations, how compared to mine, which funeral, everything just, and it's interesting. I think for me, I felt quite silenced anyway, because the stigma around it. I didn't feel like I could knock on anyone's door and say, oh, by the way, can I have a cup of tea? Because my brother just killed himself. It wasn't really something I felt like doing anyway. So I went inside, and I saw a lot of my family do that too. But you're finding that journey through writing now, aren't you? Like you say, irrelevant of lockdown or not, you're finding your way, like I found my way with research and this kind of thing. Podcast. We're both here today talking on Clubhouse. There's that movement, isn't it? We talked about last week, this movement in our grief that we have to do something.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's kept me going, is doing something. I'm having to find a meaning, a purpose or hope or something. I can't sit still in my grief. I'm constantly moving on the go. And I know a lot of that's to do with the adrenaline, the cortisol, the emotions, the trauma, because we've experienced trauma and the body wants to hold on to that trauma. And so we've got to find ways of releasing that. And my head feels overwhelmed with it all, feels overloaded. And I'm finding these little avenues of things that are helping. I know that's right for me. And it's different for everyone. Everyone finds their own way. Some people I know, it's heartbreaking. Some people are not even there yet. They don't know how to do what we're doing. And my heart really goes out to them, because I think they're just still in shock, numb, overwhelmed. And we're both on lots of social media bereavement groups, specifically where somebody has lost a loved one to suicide. And it's heartbreaking. Yeah. And we have to be so careful, because both of us empaths. Yeah. We don't want to take on too much of anybody else's pain and suffering, but you feel it in those groups.
You do, and I think I was saying this to Victoria last time, that we have to really know which groups serve us and which don't, and really pay attention to, like Victoria says, if I'm getting in a group and it's spoiling my day and it's putting me in a bad place for the day because of a post I might have seen, I've got to step away from that group for a little while. And we've got to be we're also different in which ones will heal us, whether it's the ones that are sharing stories or the ones that are about hope or positivity, or we've got to know which one fires off that in us to keep going, to keep stepping forward, because that's what it's all about, isn't it? Every single day, taking one day at a time, stepping forward. And whether that's a Facebook group that helps you do that, or doing the journaling that you did to write the book, or this kind of thing that we're doing on the Clubhouse, whatever keeps you every single day, taking that step forward, or a step anywhere. It's not even forward necessarily some days. It's just getting up and carrying on, isn't it? Really?
I suppose I've been fortunate that with the twins, I haven't been able to have a day in bed. I haven't been able to just hide under the duvet. From that very first moment of being told I'd lost my only sibling, I still had to put on my mum hat and be mum. And that's a blessing, I think, that I've had them around to make sure I do carry on some normality, but it's never going to be normal again. I've changed. Everything has changed as a result. But I feel blessed that they've given me something, especially in the early days, to live for. Although having said that, sounds a bit conflicting. And even now I feel it. There's days when I just don't want anyone to talk to me. I don't want to talk to anyone. I want to be all by myself and I want to be on my own.
Yeah, definitely. And it's knowing we can flip. I've talked to you about this, haven't I, recently, how we can flip between the two. It's okay to flip from not wanting to speak to anybody, curling up in a ball, whatever, looking after yourself. I think it's fundamental at that point, just doing whatever you need to do, whatever it is.
That's what I've learned, actually, is that I'll say to my husband, right, okay, today I'm feeling this or that, and I feel comfortable in speaking and saying how I feel, whereas in the past I wouldn't have done.
Yeah, sure.
Whereas now I almost feel like my brother has given me a platform to speak up, because I was always known as the shy one, the quiet one, the little mouse. And now he said, sister, stand up, talk, speak, say how you feel. And he's removed some of my fear.
Wow.
That's how I see it.
Right.
And it's like he's good, because he's very much is somebody, he can talk to anybody, make anyone feel at ease, makes that person feel like the only important person in that room. He really listens, he remembers things, and you feel, wow, you want to keep talking to him because he listens to you, he understands, he gets it, he motivates people, encourages people. And I feel now him being in the spirit world, which is another topic I could talk hours about, because this again is what has helped me massively. He's very much around in spirit, and I feel he's just giving me that little nudge. Say, come on, you can do it, you can do it. So he's always there, giving me that little extra nudge to keep going.
Like you say, it's changed you, isn't it? The whole thing. going from somebody quite introverted, almost quiet and mousy, to know, actually, I'm going to talk about this, even though it's really painful. Because, coming and talking about this, of course it brings it up. Of course it's painful.
It is. And I'm learning as well that there are some days, like now, I'm talking about it and I'm thinking, why am I not crying? Why am I not in floods of tears? And there's other times I can talk about it and I can barely get my words out. And the emotions, and it really does just keep flicking from one to the other.
It's just big and complex, isn't it? I don't think you can even touch on the complexity of it and the hugeness of it unless, you've kind of been there and experienced that massive, complete shift in who you are, what you know now, who you are now, what this is making you, challenging you on in yourself. It's almost you're saying, he's saying, go on, you can do it. So you're becoming this woman that you never maybe thought would even come, but through something so tragic. So it's so confusing, isn't it? It's like
Yeah, it is. And it's just, in my head, I was just thinking then, other people looking in on us, they think, oh, you're laughing and smiling. Oh, you must be over it now. You must be over the grief. And this is, again, what I've been so fortunate in my 46 years on this earth. I've never had to grieve like this. The only person I've ever lost is my grandmother, but she was in her 90s, and that's expected. And, I'm okay with that. 92 is a good age. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
But to lose my only sibling, he's 48, so forever 48. His birthday is actually the day after mine.
Oh, wow.
I'm April the 28th, he's April the 29th. So we've almost always had like a twin birthday, even though obviously we're not twins. We're 2 years apart. But sharing a birthday so close, going forwards, I can't even think that far ahead, how I'm going to get through the first birthday without him. But the grief is something I can't even describe. It's massive, it's huge. And with the suicide element, making it all the more complex, and the trauma that we experience of what we've been through, and then there's all the questions of why, how, what, doesn't make sense. Because my brother, that we know of, didn't suffer with any mental ill health that we know of. This is why I think we're still in shock 8 months down the line, because I still can't get my head round it. And that must be the same for our mum and dad. It still doesn't make any sense. And yet he did it, he's done it, he's not here. And even that, like now, I still can't believe that he's actually still not here. And I don't know if that's the same for you nearly 5 years down the line, whether you have accepted that he's passed, or whether you still can't believe that he's not around.
Yeah. Again, it switches between the two. There's a part of me that knows I'll never see him again, but it's not until I really face it in times like this, or face and talk about it, or put a picture on, like I did at the Facebook page. I looked at his picture and thought, really? Still, it just feels so surreal. So I think, they say there's periods of grief, don't they? You go through anger, you go through shock, you go through all those stages, of grief, and there's acceptance at the end. And I don't think they're sort of saying now that we can go between the three.
It's not linear. It's not blah, 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 blah.
And I think I go from acceptance to disbelief to, I don't think I've never been angry. That's me. We're all just so different.
I've not done that either. That's weird. Yeah, I know a lot of people have been there going through the anger, but I'm not. No, haven't found that yet.
And I think it's part of what I feel like saying to anybody, like you, who are 8 months on. Sorry, I'm saying 7 months. When I met you at 7 months, it's going to be in my head 7 months now, forever. Like these things that stick, isn't it? It doesn't feel like 4.5 years, sort of 5 years has passed since my brother. And I just almost want you to kind of know that anything you're experiencing is okay. I think it's when you start to judge yourself for experiencing it, that's when we have, the problems. If you're sad, if you're happy, if you're, like you say, laughing, and you might think, oh, everyone's thinking, why am I laughing? That's the judgment side of you, isn't it? If you're upset and you're thinking, oh, I shouldn't be upset by this. 8 months have gone, 5 years has gone, I shouldn't be upset. That's your judgment talking. You're feeling anything, allow yourself to feel it. Watch when the judgment comes in, because that's your critical voice that just needs to sit down and be quiet, really, because it's not helpful. It's not helpful at all, because we're all allowed, absolutely 100% allowed to feel whatever it is we're feeling. And we've got to allow those feelings to go through, haven't we, to heal from them. We've got to allow those feelings to rise and fall. We've got to be with them while they rise and fall, as painful as they are. And I think that's when we know when to ask for help or not, isn't it? When we feel them, we don't have the critical judge come in our minds, and we can kind of say, help me, like you're doing now. You're able to do that now. Still do that 5 years, still do that in 10 years, still do that in 20 years when you get reminded. Because you see in these groups, people are still getting very upset 20 years later, aren't they? But only for days at a time, not necessarily all consuming as now. I think that's the difference. It goes from all consuming to less time of being consuming. And I do think for me, the more I do this kind of stuff, talk to people about it, I heal. Painful as it is, I heal from it.
Yeah, because I could have quite easily, because I said to you yesterday, I said I'm having a really low day yesterday, and I could have quite easily said I'm not in the right frame of mind to talk about it, to do a podcast. But in my heart, I knew that it helps, even though I felt actually I don't want to talk about it tomorrow. I just feel in a low place today. I knew that, well, tomorrow is another day, and I know it helps. And and I'm glad I'm sat here now talking to you.
Yeah,
it feels, again, I'm very much somebody who, I very much believe in the universe, and I know a lot of people have very different views and beliefs, and I just feel these things there's the reason why I'm talking here to you today. Everything I'm doing is just all part of what I'm supposed to be doing, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So you believe you're here. Yeah. And I think that's part of this podcast as well. It's about allowing whatever story to come out, no judgment about spirituality, religion, how you've coped, whether you did cope by staying in your room for 2 years, whether you coped by, I don't know, whatever you needed to do, alcohol, whatever it was, the no judgment area.
Exactly, because we're all different. Yeah. We are all different, and there's no book or therapist or anybody that can say to you, right, you have to do it this way, this is the only way to do it. No, it's not. You have to find your own way that's right for you, and by all means listen to what other people are doing and exploring what others are doing, and then sort of, it's like a big jigsaw, just putting the pieces together. And there's going to be missing pieces, but that's okay. It's just slowly, steady, take it at your own pace. And my biggest piece of advice, which sounds so simple, that somebody gave to me right early on, was just remember to breathe.
Oh, wow.
Just breathe. Just sit and breathe.
Yeah.
And it just takes a few seconds, but just be conscious of your breath. And right, now get on, move on, or just sit and cry if you want to, but just remember to breathe.
So journaling's helped you, writing it, breathing, that sort of token of just stop and breathe. What else do you think has been your main source of?
Well, I remember the first few weeks, months probably, I couldn't listen to music. I had to have silence. And I love music. I love singing, dancing. That's my passion. And yet I couldn't. Early on, if I heard the TV on in the background or music, I just couldn't bear it. I didn't want to hear. My head was just in so much pain. And then one day I was in the kitchen and I just put on Alexa and played some Latin dance music. And I just started moving and I started dancing, and I felt so good afterwards.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it ever since. I will go into the kitchen, put on my favourite dance music, and I will just dance, whether it's for 5 minutes, whether it's for half an hour, whether it's for an hour. It's not every day, but it's most days. And singing, I will just sing all around the house. And it stops me, I think, from being static, being stuck in pain. It's movement, because we are our emotions, aren't we? And I think motion, the word in emotions, we need to move, we need to feel, express. And through dance and through singing, I'm expressing and getting out the adrenaline and the cortisol and the yucky hormones that make me feel so rubbish. And I'm giving myself a little boost. And that helps me so much. And I don't care who's watching me dancing and singing. Luckily, I've got the twins that join in. Sometimes my little boy will say, "Mummy, stop singing, please." But even nursery rhymes, I'm lucky that with the 4-year-olds, nursery rhymes are really therapeutic.
The rhythm and
Yeah, they're simple. We know them. We just know them. We're built, I think, just knowing these nursery rhymes. And just that is just, when I'm doing the washing up, I just start singing a nursery rhyme. I don't care how silly I look. It's to help me feel better. It's to help me heal. And I know if I'm helping myself, I'm helping those that live in the house with me. So I think, because I'm quite a creative individual, and I think I'm using that to my advantage.
Okay.
Using my imagination and my creativity to help with the healing. And I'm finding that is helping. Yeah. So writing. So I started writing this book 3 months after he died.
Okay.
I didn't know what I was writing. I just started writing. And then I discovered that even though some pages I'm writing through absolute tears, and it feels so painful, there's other bits that I'm writing where I feel that, wow, I'm just letting go. And I've also discovered that there's sometimes I've written from the head, and a lot of time I've written from the heart. And it's the bits that come from the heart. Wow. When I read back over them, I think, how did I write that?
Oh,
I have no idea how I wrote it, but just because it came from the heart and it flows and you get into the zone. So I really encourage anyone to just start writing or dancing or singing.
doing something, yeah. You've joined with somebody who runs as well for suicide awareness, haven't you?
Yep, I'm chatting to her next week, I think it is.
Are you going to start running, or do you run?
I am. I don't run.
Oh, okay.
I run. At school, I was always told I used to waddle like a duck.
Oh, God.
You get labelled with something like that, then it puts you off running for life.
Totally.
Don't jog. I love walking. Running, absolute no. Even my husband, who took up running the start of lockdown back in March, almost a year ago, saying to me, come on, do some running. And I was like, that's never going to happen. I'm never going to run. I don't run. But I saw an interview with this lady, with a friend of mine, and I was thinking, do you know what? I'm going to do that. It's helping other people. My brother started running during the lockdown, and there's been a lot of days where I have actually in my head felt like I've just wanted to run away from everything. And I've said this several times to my husband. I'm just going to open the front door and I just want to run. That's how I felt. I don't know if you had that same feeling. I just wanted to run away from everything. And so linking all of that up, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to do this because I can feel my brother pushing me going, yep, do it, run. So I'm going to set up a running group in my town, and it's going to help those that are just wanting to get together with a group of people where we're all experiencing the same loss from suicide, because that's how we connect. We know we connect that way. So whether it's they are grieving suicide or whether they're perhaps themselves feeling suicidal, we're just going to get together and we're going to walk to run. So it's not a race, it's not a marathon. So I know you've done a marathon, haven't you?
It's the same thing, yeah, exactly. So I'm smiling away thinking, I didn't run at all. I said I would never run. My sister ran the marathon, London Marathon, 3 years before my brother died. And I looked at her when she came over the end. She looked terrible, and I said, I am never doing that. I'm never going to put myself through that. And then 6 months after he died, you go, oh, look, they're doing a campaign for mental health awareness. Oh, maybe I could share my story and get some awareness going on in the world. Because just, again, that drive to make a difference, that drive to do something, that drive to, I can't just sit in this and not do anything with it, whatever it is. But so then ran the London Marathon the following April. So he died in November. And I think it wouldn't have been the next April. It would have been 18 months later-ish, 15 months later would have done the marathon. Again, very organically kind of just saw what was in front of me and thought, shall I do that? Is that a good idea for me? And it definitely helped, 100%. I went onto the radio, talked about it. I went on to Daily Mail. I went into Daily Mail and talked about it. Just talking about it. I couldn't keep it in. Absolutely.
Totally get that. My brother was going to do the Boston Marathon last year, but obviously with COVID and everything, he's no longer around anyway to have done it. But that would have been incredible.
It's interesting how those skills, I'm just thinking about that in terms of, I went for a run yesterday. It's opened up something for me that I was forced to do for the campaign. I had to start running to be able to do the marathon. Training was the worst, actually. Training for 4 months. Mother's Day in March, I couldn't even stand to go to the table we had, because I'd just done a sort of, I don't know how long it was, 2-hour run that morning, because I had to do it at that point to make sure I could run the London Marathon a month later, sort of thing. And what was my point? That now I still run. So it's opened up something in me, which really helps me, because if I'm having a stressful day, I can go for a run and it just takes me into a different place in my brain, that mindful place where you just run. All you're doing, you're running and you're in the flow, you're in that flow space that musicians talk about, and you're just one foot in front of the other, running. And it's interesting. I'm just thinking about that. In terms of it just brings a different thing to your life that you didn't have before. I wouldn't have done it. No way would I have done it if my brother hadn't died. Not in a million years. But it helps me now.
That's just never a thing. Yeah. And that's the thing, we find something new, something we would never have considered in the past. And yet, by doing it, we've realised, actually, that's helping.
You say
it's important never to say never to anything.
Yes. Yeah, true. And spirituality, you said, has been a big player as well for you in terms of helping you to grieve.
Oh, my gosh. I think probably for me, that's the number one value, belief, whatever you want to call it, that's really helped me through these last 8 months from early on, because I can't bear to think of him being gone and that's it. That's the end, full stop. Okay. I can't bear to think like that. I have to think, and I have to know he is still around. Like physically, his physical presence, he's no longer here, and that still very much pains me and makes me emotional that I physically can't speak to him and see him. Knowing that His spirit, though, is around, and I get a sense he's around here in this room with me right now, listening. That doesn't make me feel so alone, because he was my only sibling. I don't have any other siblings. To lose an only sibling, I felt suddenly that I'm the only one. Our family was very much mum, dad, me and Stuart.
Yeah.
Little unit of the four of us, and that's our little family. And our parents are both in their 80s, and I know that they're not going to be around forever. And it should be that when they pass on, it's me and Stuart still here. And it's not. When they pass on, it's just me.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm lucky I've got the children, the twins, but they're sort of extend the next level on. It's that unit of four of us that we've had for 46 years, 48 years. That's what's now got a missing part. And because I've always had this interest in sort of afterlife, mediums, spirits, signs and messages, the universe, I really moved into that more after he passed. And I get a lot of signs and a lot of messages from my brother, and that is such a massive comfort for me.
Yeah.
Whether it's the white feathers, and they're not just random white feathers, they are he strategically places them in places that...
Where have you found them?
Well, okay, there were this times as well. So, for example, on the day of his funeral, he left a beautiful white feather on the doormat. So, opening the front door on the morning of his funeral, there is a white feather on the doormat, and our door is sort of enclosed as well. So it's not a plate. It's not just a feather could float by. You had to sort of turn the corner.
Wow.
On another day, I remember before Christmas, and I popped out to the shop to buy him a Christmas card. Actually, I wanted to still buy him a Christmas card. Mm-hmm. And that in itself, I was stood in Marks and Spencer's crying my eyes out, looking at all the section of brothers. Yeah. But when I got home, shut the car door, looked behind me, and there was a white feather attached to the door.
Oh, God.
Car. So I've never seen feathers attached to car doors before. I remember another time where I was chatting outside to a friend on the phone, and I was saying, I've not had any signs of my brother for a few days. I'm really upset, and I was talking about it, and then bam, just this white feather floated right down past me, just literally that close.
As you said it.
As I was saying, he's not given me any signs. And then the one that happened recently, which is a bit of a long story, but so my brother passed in June. In August, we found a photograph of infant school. So he would have been about 6 years old. Okay. And Mum and I were looking at the picture, naming all of his friends. There's Stuart, and that's his friend, and blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And there was one boy sat on the front row, and we couldn't remember his name. Mm. And I was asking all other friends, and nobody could remember who this boy was, his name was. And Mum said, Stuart met up with him about 10 years ago. And we'd moved, when he was 14, we'd moved from a different county. So we'd left all those school friends behind. So 30 odd years, hadn't seen each other. No, longer than that, 40 years, crikey. And Mum said, that's the boy. He met up with him only 10 years ago. And so Mum became really fixated on finding out who this boy is. And it took us months, absolutely months, until 2 weeks ago to find the name of this boy. And Mum actually texted me to say, I know it, I know the name. She gave me the name. We found him on Facebook, as you do, on Facebook. And I messaged him, and he said, yeah, I went to that school. Yeah, that's me in the photo. But I don't remember meeting up with your brother 10 years ago. I was thinking, well, that's weird. Mum is adamant. So I went back to her and she said, no, yeah, definitely. Stuart met up with him, definitely, in this pub around this time, blah, blah. And I was new. And my mum was so adamant, and she kept going on about it and on about it. And last week, about a week ago, I got my husband to go up in the loft because I knew I'd got some stuff from childhood up there. And he got this big box down, and I found all my old diaries. And there was about 10 diaries. So we got 10 years worth. And I just sat on the floor, picked up one of these books, opened it up. It landed at a random page. There was the name of this boy in that photograph that my mum said had met up 10 years ago. It wasn't 10 years ago. It was 30 years ago. It was 30 years ago. So bless her, my mum.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced, because out of all of those 10 diaries, any page I could have opened, that there was that entry that said, I think it was the 8th of January, 1990. Wow. Stuart has met up with such and such, an old school chum from the 80s, from the 70s. Wow. And I believe that because my brother knew my mum was adamant about this boy and his name and the meeting up, he made that happen, that I would just open that page and go to mum and say, actually, it was 30 years ago, mum, but you're right.
Yeah.
And I can't, that to me is such an amazing, it's more than a coincidence. I believe that's Stuart.
Yeah, and it's so comforting, isn't it, to know that he's looking after you, because otherwise you might have wondered about it or thought, and your mum might have been wondering about it, thinking, oh, well, why is he
I think he did it because he and mum are so close,
Right.
and mum's been saying she's had no signs from him. And I think that's his way of saying, Mum, I'm around, I'm listening, and I know this has meant so much to you, because she's been so fixated on finding this boy, this now man, for months. And I just find that's his way of saying, I'm with you, Mum, I'm with you.
There's such a sense of that, isn't it? He's pushing you on to do this and that and the other. He's encouraging you. He's giving you all these little signs, especially when you're upset, like when you're upset in the card shop, Feather was there. At the funeral, Feather was there. Really. And I find that in moments, I've lost my mum, not to suicide, 2 years before my brother. And like I said, if I'm having a difficult day, that's when the sign will come in. If I'm having a difficult moment, that's when the sign will come in, as if just that little gentle reassurance that maybe life's not as bad as maybe you think it is, and there's more higher purpose or whatever going on that we just can't see. Just a little gentle nudge into my mind going into that instead. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. This is me having one of my moments, one of my days, and it will pass, I think. But yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? That's what I can hear, just how it's comforting, full stop.
I mean, I've had a couple of weekends ago, it was the RSPB Bird Watch, and my brother's supported RSPB. He loves his animals, and I've never done it before, but I did it with the twins in the garden. And normally we just get the usual birds in the garden. But the time when I was looking out the window for that hour, we had robins, chaffinches, blue tits, and great tits. And again, I was thinking, Stuart, thank you. Just little things like that, but they mean so much.
Oh, yeah.
And songs, I mean, we've all heard there's certain songs come on a radio at certain times. Perhaps you don't expect it, and suddenly it's like, whoa. And it reminds you, or it's a message through a song. Yeah. And again, or if you're out and about and you hear the name of your loved one, somebody random just say the name, and you think, okay. Yeah. Some people might say, well, you're just now more aware of things like that because you're looking for things. But I still think we don't really know. None of us. No. Nobody really knows. So I think if you find it a comfort to you, then go with it.
Absolutely. 100%. Agree with you there. Yeah. Whatever we can do to make it easier.
Yeah.
In terms of our perception, whatever we can do in terms of our perception to just shift it here and there. Yeah. It's definitely helped me to believe in the afterlife. Because I think when you're trying to make sense of a suicide, I can't imagine what it's like without that. I can't imagine making sense of a suicide without feeling that my brother at least now is in peace. At least he's somewhere he needs to be right now, wherever that is energetically. He needed to go on this journey, and that's irrelevant of me or the family, the extended family. He needed to do whatever he did as part of his life purpose in this lifetime that he had. And that takes so much peace from that it was his journey and he's where he needs to be right now. And it sounds as if Stuart, is energetically still very much there helping you, and so he's not gone anyway. So it helps me to think, well, they're not gone anyway, they're just on a different physical plane that we can't see. And again, it might sound crazy to some people, but I'd love to think that rather than he's just gone.
Yeah, I can't bear to think that. I don't want to open up a belief that that's possible. My belief is that we are energy. With energy never dies, and we are in some other form. And I think this is how we get these signs and messages, because yes, I feel they are still around, and some more than others. And as you say, I too like to think that for whatever reason they had to do this at that time. It was for whatever reason, we'll never know. I'm always constantly trying to find answers still, and I know I shouldn't keep looking for answers and keep questioning, but pace. And I think they're trying to let us know, I think perhaps through these signs and messages, that they're actually okay. And it must be frustrating for them to see us so upset and in pain and suffering. And so it's the suicide element is just it just makes it all more complex, doesn't it? It's the suicide bit and I think that's why a lot of people, if they haven't experienced a loss through suicide, can't quite grasp the grief that we're going through, because until you've been there and experienced it, I would never have been able to understand. If I'd have met you a year ago, I wouldn't have been able to really understand, would I, of
You can
your
try,
grief.
but you can't fully. Yeah.
And there is, unfortunately, there's still such a stigma with suicide, and this is why we're talking. And
So what's your plan with that? What's your plan with your still early days, but what's your plan with your Facebook page? Because you've got a Facebook page, haven't you? Suicide.
I have, yeah, I've called it "What Suicide Left Behind" because I felt, yeah, what does suicide leave behind? Wow, it leaves an absolute, I don't even know what the word is, but
There's not
so
a word
much.
that captures it, I don't think, is there? I can never find the right word to capture it. Yeah.
No, and as you say, 8 months might not seem early days to a lot of people, but to me it is still early days, actually, isn't it? I have to remind myself and say, yeah, I've not even reached a year yet, and I'm still experiencing the first Christmas, the first New Year's Eve, which was awful. I did not like New Year's Eve at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yet to do the birthdays and the first anniversary or death anniversary, whatever we call it. But I'm coming up with lots of different ways of, one, raising more awareness about suicide, grief, loss. I know there's obviously a lot of suicide prevention groups and awareness places as well. So I think because I'm experiencing more the suicide loss, grief, the sort of area that I'm more focused on because I'm there, I'm going through it. So it comes from the heart. Ways of healing. And again, it's not telling people how you should do it this way. It's just saying these are all the different things you can tap into, tune into, experience, find your own way.
And Instagram, you're sharing things on there as well.
Yeah, and again, Instagram.
Is that just Linzi Meaden? That is.
It is Linzi Meaden on Instagram. So I've got Facebook, What Suicide Left Behind. And I've also got a group as well. I haven't been overly active in my group yet. Again, because I'm just so overloaded with everything. I need to give that full attention. So the page is a lot more active than the group at the moment. That will change. Yeah, and I have got some other ideas and plans as well. And I've got my book, which I should have got. I'm a bit cross with myself that I haven't got it published yet. I should have. The aim was to get it sorted by the end of January, but yeah, as you say.
Gosh, there's like a real critical voice there.
I know. I was just hearing you. Hearing you say, "No, Lindsay, don't say that."
Yeah, if you were hearing a friend say that, you'd be like, "Oh, hang on a minute, give yourself a break." You know, you've just done that in 8 months. Who's written a book on suicide loss? You know, after they lost someone to suicide within 8 months.
I think it's just stopping and going, hang on, just look at how far you've come.
Yeah, totally.
And go, okay, stop, breathe, remember to breathe. And then, okay, yeah, it will be published at the time that's right. Whether it's this month or next month, it will be out there. And I'm hoping that just gives a little bit of hope to others and just a bit of comfort. And I found when I first lost my brother, I just went onto Amazon and started ordering lots of books about suicide because I had no idea what it was all about, and grief and sibling loss. And I was reading and
that's helped as well. So, and writing. Yeah, well, gosh, you've been busy, haven't you? You've been busy. Yeah. And I think there's a different stage between writing a book and then being ready to show it to people. It's a different thing, isn't it? I think you've got to be...
right. I think that's maybe why I'm delaying the actual publication side, because suddenly that's so personal and it's come from here, and I'm suddenly putting it out there, and people can be harsh. And I'm sure there will be people that say, oh, this is not a good book, or what a load of rubbish, whereas other people will say, oh, it's really helped, or it's comforting, or I'm so glad I got it. And I've got to be prepared for that, haven't I? I've got to be... So, I need to be in a good place. But equally, as I said, my brother's given me that push, that encouragement, and to not be so fearful. So, you know what? If people don't like it, so what? That's not my problem, that's theirs.
Yeah. But just give yourself time to come to that headspace. Give yourself time.
Yeah.
To be ready. Not necessarily for what's going to come, but just putting it out alone, just giving your heart out to the world, I think. Learn what they're going to say about it, just that. You need to be in the right place to go, here you are, universe, have it.
Because it's so raw. It's very raw and emotional, and it's like I'm suddenly naked. It's sort of...
Yeah. So brave, yeah.
raw.
Okay, anything else you want to say before we finish? Anything you want to wrap up? Amazing to hear your story. It's so early, and I can hear you're still just really processing so much, and really credit to you for coming here. Like you say, part of you didn't want to, and credit to just getting up and trying and giving it you. Yeah, I think you're just really genuine, and here I am, brain fog or not.
Yeah.
hate me or not. And I think that's fantastic because you're just in helping other people, but also helping yourself just by sharing it today and getting it out again. Maybe it's on that journey towards sharing your book, these little talks you're doing, you're kind of sharing yourself slowly with other people like me in the Clubhouse group before you actually do it yourself. It's all on that journey, isn't it?
Yeah, and I feel very blessed that we've connected because very, very similar in having lost a brother, and you're 4.5 years down the line, and I feel a level of comfort when I speak to you and see how amazing you're doing. And we very much come from a place we're wanting to raise awareness and help others. And
bring it on. We can't fix the world, but we can try our little corner of the world.
If it's just one person, it might sound selfish, but we have to look after ourselves. It's important that we look after ourselves because otherwise we can't help others. So if we've been there and we're helping ourselves, then we can help others. And even if it's just one person at a time, that is what makes all the difference. So I have really nothing else to say because my brain's totally out now.
You've done amazingly well. You've spoken for nearly an hour. Just done an hour, and you've well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you so much for sharing your story with everybody.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. Thanks so much for joining us here today. I hope it's served you and given you something for your journey with suicide. Come back and subscribe, do whatever you need to do on your platform to help us to raise awareness of suicide, because the more we keep saying the word, the more we can gain support for us left behind, and the more we can raise awareness of the word and how society sees it and reduce this stigma that's so attached to it. Please get in touch. You can find me on my website, suicidegriefsupport.com. I really want to hear from you. But for now, please take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And remember, we are stronger together.